I know it took a while, but we're finally ready to do God Mode Iansan. This won't be as much a pure showcase as it is a constellation comparison from one to the next, and a comparison versus our C6 Crowned Burst Bennett. My assumption going into this is that they're going to be pretty close in terms of their actual buffing ability, but they're better or worse for different teams. For her build, we will for now keep her in Favonius Lance, but it is possible once we get her up to C3, we need to get more attack. We'll see. Also, of course, Cinder City as a Natlan support, that's going to be typically her best set. And we have also crowned her burst. C0 versus C1 should be pretty easy to compare. She essentially gets 15 elemental energy per burst, effectively making her burst cost 55. This is already a little lower than Bennett's 60 energy cost. The only thing we're really going to do is hit E on these guys. Make sure Favonius procs, and you can see at C0, after that, we went from 0 to a little over half energy, which is honestly pretty good already if you have Favonius. So we're gonna go ahead and grab C1 and see what 15 energy looks like. We are again back at 0, so we're just gonna go ahead and do that. And yeah, we're nearly full from 0 just after that little combo. So it does make a pretty big difference. I don't really recall having too many energy issues with her, but with C1, you're almost guaranteed to not have energy issues with her, especially with an 18-second cooldown on her burst anyway, which is 1 point against her versus Bennett that he only has a 15-second cooldown, allowing for faster rotations. C2 is also pretty straightforward. It's a 30% attack boost, and you don't necessarily need to do the normal attack after her E then. There is one concern if you run her with Favonius though. Unless you have a good amount of crit rate, like I don't know, maybe 43 is enough. Since her burst only hits once and her skill only hits once, if you don't do the little normal attack thing, the chance for Favonius to proc is less, of course. To test the buffing difference between her C1 and C2, we're just gonna do a rotation on Dorito Boss here. We can also check Varesa's stats, because that'll be our main DPS for this battle. At the end of the battle, we should have pretty much all buffs here. So we got the Cinder City, which worked. That's good. I tried Mavuika before Xianyun, and Xianyun just took off the Pyro, so we didn't get a reaction with Iansan and thus no Cinder City. Just something you have to keep in mind, I suppose. Besides that, our Varesa is sitting at 3286 attack, gaining 2255 from buffs. For now, let's just look at the difference between C1 and C2 and that 30% attack there. Yes, this seems good now. 3286 was our old attack, 3595 is our new attack from getting Iansan to C2. A little over 300 attack from one constellation on a 4-star is pretty good. Granted, Varesa has decently high base attack and she has a high base attack weapon, so her base attack is also pretty high at 1031. The C2 attack buff on someone like Hu Tao with her signature Staff of Homa would be much less effective with her lower base attack. So C3 is basically useless. It's just gonna increase Thunderbolt Rush. I really don't think we need to compare that. It's at 401 multiplier. We're gonna go ahead and grab it. I'm not going to waste books in the talent, to be honest, and now it's at 486. Yeah. C4, at least in this team, is almost pointless until C6, where you really want to overflow. Boiling down this wall of text, it basically gives her more Night Soul points. There is one important thing here, and that is the character coming after Iansan, whether that's the DPS or another support before the DPS, needs to do their burst. One of them needs to do burst. With my Knight, for example, I basically never do his burst, so either she needs to come a little earlier and someone else does their burst for Knight, or whatever. It's just something to note. Using Varesa as a main DPS, I don't feel like this constellation is gonna matter. Probably even at C6, where we want to overflow our Night Soul points, I feel like Varesa moves enough to do that without C4. But I do want to do another run, just actually paying attention to her Night Soul points and if they are constantly, you know, going back to full. In case it's getting a little chaotic, she is still currently at C3, so we don't have the buff yet. But let's see here. So we're just going to do the typical Varesa stuff. And yeah, looking over there, she is like always at full, which is all to say, it just makes her a little bit more flexible in team options. You can use less mobile DPSs, though I imagine still not completely immobile. Before getting C4, we really should try a non-optimal DPS to see if it can like help them. Honestly, most of them don't move that much. Sure, we'll try Chlorinde, unrelated, so we're still gonna test it, but like Chlorinde needs a very small amount of on-field time, and her burst cooldown is kind of long. We'll just start with the team like this. I'm not trying to be all optimal and stuff. Okay, yeah. Oh, wow, he died very fast though. I was not looking at what Iansan was doing. I also pressed E before burst because I'm just so used to doing that. All right, let's try that once more here. So I'm gonna switch to her and just do burst immediately. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't really care. And then it's like 3 normals and then E. We are dashing around. Looking at Iansan, I don't think she was completely full all the time. I think it was pretty close to whether we had the good or bad attack buff. The last character I want to try before we go to C4 is Chasca. I feel like she might be interesting, not only being a Natlan character, but she can be constantly moving around while attacking. Should also be a lot easier to see with Chasca because you just really have to hold down the left click. But all right, let's hop up and just start moving around. I mean, I kind of do this naturally anyway, so looking at Iansan, actually, even before, it's like she's still good, you know? She still has like plenty of Night Soul points. It's going back to full pretty much every time. I don't think we did Chasca's burst, which would be necessary for C4. So I guess we could maybe start with that to try and see something different. First, C4 run here. We're just going to basically do the same thing, but start with her burst, of course, to, you know, actually activate her C4 and just start moving around. Keeping an eye on Iansan's energy points over there. It honestly looks pretty much the same. Maybe she was even more consistently at full, like, it's so close though. I forgot to do another run with Chlorinde after getting Iansan to C4, so here's that. Recording from my phone because my office is closed currently. I mean, not really. My office is just my room, but I don't want to go there right now. Anyway, I think Chlorinde is one of the characters that really benefit from Iansan C4. On the top is pre-C4, on the bottom is post-C4. It's slowed down a bit to see more clearly, but we're definitely more consistently in the good zone. So I guess outside of some very specific cases where, you know, you have a DPS that moves enough at C4 to maintain her buff, it's not that useful until we get to C6. C5 is where things can get a little tricky. We essentially need to increase our attack. I would prefer having around 2800 to 2850 outside of combat. She'll still be able to get herself to 3000 with her passive, just completely self-contained. So we don't have to think about if we're getting an attack buff from somewhere. Even though they are extremely common, you know, you could find yourself in a team that doesn't have one, so I'd rather just be completely prepared. The easiest way to get to 2850 attack would be getting off Favonius. I think that would be a bit of a shame because it's such a good energy generator, but the only other way while keeping Favonius is to get some godly substats, since we're already running triple attack. My off piece is actually the flower, and it has no attack on it. Before now, she didn't need more attack, so I just got it for the energy recharge. So let's just see what the highest attack we have is. 20% here on the flower, that's not gonna cut it. It's even worse on Plume at 18%, so I guess we're just gonna have to go with this 20 here. So we're at 2900. Oh, that's actually not bad. So we'd get 785 of the total 810 we could have at C5. Is 25 attack significant? Not really. I'm not sure it's worth grueling over, especially because in most teams you will get some sort of attack from some other teammate or their artifact or whatever. But sure, we'll raise this plume. See if it goes into attack percent. I think it's already too late. 4 sub start, 5.8 attack. We're gonna one-shot that and see if we get at least 2 attack rolls, then we might be getting pretty close. Boom! 1 attack roll. We have exactly the same attack we have already. Yes, all of this for 25 attack, we are probably not even going to miss in most teams. Not once? Okay, I give up. Even a 4-star weapon with attack percent would be enough, I reckon. Yep, just a little over 3000, but it's enough. Oh yeah, and we didn't even get the 24% from the elemental reaction, which we always would, so we actually have room to spare here. I can't imagine C5 is gonna do that much for us, but shouldn't really matter. Let's go ahead and grab C5, kaboom. And yes, now we can see the max stack bonus went up to 810. I haven't been closely paying attention to Varesa's numbers, but I saw the non-Apex burst was 177, the last hit there. This one is 130. So yeah, we got 120 more attack. It's something for sure. Our Iansan is sitting at 32, 36, so plenty there. I am noticing this boss is a little annoying for plungers because, you know, sometimes you can't jump high enough for whatever reason. That was a 180 versus the 177 from earlier. It's not that big of a difference, honestly, but you know, it's something. Our Varesa is still C0, by the way. Her God mode's coming after Iansan's, because I kind of want to use C6 Iansan with God mode Varesa. That'd be kind of weird not to, right? Now we move on to C6, where things get much more interesting. First of all, very nice is that her burst lasts 3 seconds longer. So not only is it going to be easier to actually check things like the stat page, but you have a bit more flexibility in where she comes in the rotation. Right now I want her right before Varesa because Varesa can easily spend 12 seconds on field. Maybe more or less when you get constellations. I would need to think about that later, but regardless, 3 extra seconds for burst is always good. And with any overflow, we get a 25% damage buff for 3 seconds, which sounds not like a lot, but in this team especially, and in a lot of teams we've actually looked at, she's overflowing every second, so the small duration shouldn't really matter. But okay, let's go ahead and grab it and see how that changes things. Apex burst. It was like a short Apex burst though, and I don't know what's going on now. So yeah, that was bad. I'm gonna cut that one out also, except just to prove a point that I will leave this one in? I don't know. Probably not. It's a miracle if you're hearing this right now. I'm a lot more critical of myself while I'm editing than while I'm recording. And I'm like, Why are you rambling about stupid stuff no one cares about? He died too fast. I know I could just do a different boss, but like at this point it's too late. All of our information is on him. All right, let's just look at the Apex, the short Apex, I guess. That was a 198. That was definitely pretty good. I don't know why why is that not working now? I mean, I guess if they're all short Apex bursts, it doesn't really matter that we're comparing them. It might not seem like it, but I did 50 plus runs on this guy, trying to make everything as consistent as possible throughout Iansan's constellations. To make a nice visual summary of her buffing, I'll play some clips. First, trying to emulate Iansan not even being present, we'll just skip over her. The number we'll look at is Varesa's first Apex burst. We get a 126.2. Next, C0 Iansan takes that to 166.7. A huge 40k or 32% damage increase, which is to be expected as she's, well, a whole character plus Center City. C2 Iansan takes that to 175.2k or 5% increase. In this team, the percent increase is obviously smaller as we're competing with an insane additive damage buff from Xianyun and her C2, among other things, so it's better to look at the raw damage increase, which is 8500. C5 is weird. Every clip I looked at had her damage decrease a couple thousand on that first Apex burst. I went absolutely insane trying to figure out why this is. I know 120 attack isn't much, but it shouldn't decrease our damage, right? Turns out, on later runs, I was faster with my rotations, and the first Apex burst at C5 happened before the second Night Soul burst. Varesa gains another 35% attack for 3 seconds after that second one happens. Sadly, I have no clips where I was slow enough, and she's already C6, so we'll just have to skip it. I hear you saying, "Hey Moga," and to that I say, what? What do you want? And also no, I didn't want to compare any other number or plunge. The Apex burst is the only one with a fixed multiplier that doesn't change based on vertical height, and this stupid ass boss sometimes nerfs my jump. I made a new recording for C6, being a little slower on purpose, and we can see here, her first Apex burst within 3 seconds of that second Night Soul burst is 198k, which is a solid 13% or 22.8k damage increase from C2. To try and figure out what C5 did, we'll do some math, which is probably wrong. So we got 8500 damage from C0 to C2, right? Since C2 provides 30% attack, which is 309 flat attack in Varesa's case, C5 provides 120 flat attack, or 38% of C2, so we can say, theoretically, Varesa's damage should have gone up by about 3230 from C5, with the other almost 20k coming from C6. Also, I just remembered Xianyun is in Song of Days Past, which gives the team a buff randomly from healing. It's not that random, but it's like 6 seconds after Xianyun does burst, like the next 5 attacks, whatever they are, will be buffed based on the healing amount we healed. So even on the exact same constellation, on that exact same attack from Varesa, there were variances. Like here's an Apex plunge at C6 that does 203k. Which one's real? I don't know anymore. I'm done. It's close enough. This is mostly to say, unless you need C4 for a specific character, she's already quite good at C0. Naturally, C6 is her biggest jump in buffing, with C2 being alright and C5 actually being kinda mid. Regardless if my math is wrong, 120 attack is not that much. I guess when we're comparing to Binny, all we can really do is just replace Iansan with Binny. I do understand in this specific team, we are getting Pyro Res now, which is an extra 25% attack that doesn't necessarily come from Bennett. And honestly, I do want to leave it like that because that is a benefit to Bennett. He is half of Pyro Resonance. But yeah, we'll just see, I guess. Gonna go ahead and do that there and start plunging away. There's the little Apex burst. Wait, was that less? Oh, wait, she's doing way less. 160? Wait, why is she doing so much less? Okay, what am I missing? Does Binny not have gear? No, Miss Splitter? 4-piece Oblige? He is still C6? Our Varesa does have her 4000 attack, but of course, no Cinder City. It's a very simple rotation. I don't see how I could have messed that up, but we're gonna try again anyway. Apex, 162? So that's that short Apex. 158? Dude, I'm not doing anything different. That is too big of a difference. Oh, wait. Yeah, 162? It's like still good, of course. That was the last one at 160. Unfortunately, since Bennett is not an Atlan character, our Night Soul burst cooldown is 12 seconds. With Varesa's stacks lasting 12 seconds, there's no way to actually max her passive in this team. So here's Iansan and Varesa without the second Night Soul burst. We get 186k on that same Apex plunge. Still definitely quite a bit higher than Bennett's 160 something, but not as extreme. I mean, Bennett still does have an advantage. He is, very flexible. He can be in almost any a team as long as the, dude scales with attack. I mean, of course, if you have a Pyro DPS, his C6 would be better, You know, that's something we could try, I guess. Maybe just looking at Mavuika Burst, Bennett would almost assuredly win that one, especially because since I just swapped to her in Burst immediately, I don't think Iansan will be in the good attack buff mode. Ultimately, the difference is bigger than I thought, but still pretty consistent with what I said. Iansan is better in this team, especially because Varesa is there, you know, and she's moving a lot, and we don't have the issue that we don't have full Night Soul points and getting the overflow and all that. Let's try my good old Mavuika team. And then we'll just swap Iansan out for Bennett, and we'll probably see Bennett's better here. Unfortunately, we are just going to one-shot this guy. But I mean, actually, now that I think about it, I hate this game. Iansan would be at a big disadvantage if we just swapped Bennett out because the Zealonin already has Cinder City. We could give her a different set, but then it's like, dude, what? What are we doing here? I wasn't even looking at the damage because I just had that realization, but I guess let's try it again. Okay, let me see that. 1.78. We could give Iansan Oblige, but I don't want to like have artifact swap plans. Like I have to do that enough anyway. But like when I want to use her in a team that already has like, no, I'm that's stupid. I don't want to play the game like that. I think there definitely will be teams where I have Iansan and not Zealonin or some other Cinder holder. So whatever, it's just going to be useless in this team. We do have Cryo at the moment of doing this anyway. 1.70. Would that be 80k difference for her burst? When we're trying to one-shot, I'm not sure it's ideal. I'll have to go back and check what Iansan's Night Soul points were at the time of burst, but I can imagine they weren't much. Obviously, I could just say it's as simple as Benny's better in some teams, Iansan's better in other teams. I'm just not really satisfied with that. But if you don't have access to Cinder City from a different support in your team, and you have someone that moves around enough to get the 25% bonus from her C6, Iansan's better, especially because you're not restricted to a ring. It follows you, and it lasts longer, but also with a longer cooldown, so it depends on rotation length, blah, blah, blah. I know straightforward answers are more satisfying, but in this case, I don't think that's really possible. Unlike Zealonin and Kazuha, using them together I don't think makes as much sense in this case. I think you still could if you just want a bunch of attack. I would still say in that case, it depends on the team and who you have access to. Gaming Plunge, for example, sure, this team would work. I think it'd be a pretty solid team. I'm not that good at it, but you know, it was still pretty good. Regardless, if I had Farina, I would replace either one of these with her in a heartbeat. Probably Iansan because Bennett does bring more advantages to Gaming. It infuses his normal plunges because of Xianyun, that's important. Also the 15% pyro bonus, the pyro resonance. So in this case, while I'm not going to actually go through Genshin Optimizer to find out exactly what's the best, I feel like this team is either very close or just better with Bennett, even without a Cinder City. So yeah, as it is with supports, it just kind of depends on the team. It's really hard to be black and white with it. There are too many damn characters by now. I can't think of everything. In summary, Iansan is good. I'm sure it's not just the Varesa team either, and even within Varesa teams, maybe there's a different combination where Bennett works better. But if my own rambling is getting exhausting for me, it's probably getting exhausting for everyone. So that's where I'm going to leave it. The one straightforward thing I can say is that Bennett's healing is a lot better than Iansan. Something we didn't even really talk about because I almost don't even consider her passive here as, you know, in addition to being weaker than Bennett's healing, is also, I think, less consistent because she also needs to be in burst mode and like recovering stuff. Recovering Night Soul points for it to even work. Too many requirements for that stupid amount of healing. Yeah, we're getting like 2056, I think that is, every 3 seconds. It's just absolutely nothing. Bennett, I mean, watch this. We're gonna go to Iansan and just stand there. 5,000 every, well, it stopped now, but you saw how fast that was. That's insane healing, actually. I almost consider her to not have healing capability because it's so tiny. I would say that is a pretty big point for Bennett, and maybe I shouldn't have waited till nearly the end to even talk about it, but I just kind of forgot that she heals because it's so insignificant. Also, I guess because healing is somewhat optional, like if you can just avoid stuff, you don't really need healing. Just don't get hit. But okay, I guess that'll pretty much do it. I feel like she's a nice addition to the game. The main thing for me is not being restricted to a circle anymore in the team she works in. And for that, me personally, I think I'm gonna like her more than Bennett overall, just for that quality of life. Well, let me know what you think in the comments down below though. Dropping a like or subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed is always greatly appreciated as well. Thanks. As always for watching, and until next time.